YouTube, what's going on? It's Blake Went back for a new video, and today we're in my basement. We're gonna be filming how to do a sumo deadlift, right? And now this video might be a little bit different from other videos that you've watched because I myself am not exactly built for deadlifts, but I have managed to get myself up to a 705-pound deadlift while I was still 17 and in high school. As someone who's not really built for deadlifts, I've managed to get that to match my sleeve squat, which I'm pretty happy about for the most part. And I'm just kind of gonna break down how I go into approaching the deadlift, right? As someone who really shouldn't have a good deadlift, and I still have a pretty decent deadlift, I would say, compared to my other numbers. So when I'm looking at the bar right here, this is a stiff bar setup that I got down. The first thing that I'm gonna look at what I want to do is I want to set my feet, right? And so when I'm thinking about setting my feet, I'm thinking about what feels the most powerful for me, right? Okay, so if we're looking at all power, okay, I'm just gonna set my feet where I squat at. So I'm gonna stand like just like this. But there's more to the deadlift than just like power. It's also a form, it's a wedge, it's everything else. So when you look at how powerful you are from right here. So this is your squat stance. This is going to be your most powerful position. And if you're somebody who squats wide already, like you squat out here and you can manage to hit depth like that, and that's just how you squat, you're probably going to be a pretty wide stance deadlifter, I would say. But for me, someone who deadlifts or who squats pretty evenly, maybe somewhat more narrow, I'm going to be about a middle stance deadlifter. And for me, what I would assume the middle is right when your shin is at the ring. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set my legs just so the middle of my shin matches up with the middle of the ring. I would say that's pretty medium. I'd say the wider you get, you'd probably be out closer, like to your feet kind of touching the plates. But for me, someone who's just not gifted with super long arms, I just get in that really weird position. Just looking at me right now, does this look super natural to you? But then also, if you find that you're somewhat of a closer squatter, like you squat with your toes forward, and you can really just do like that type of squat, then you want to pull sumo still. Austin Perkins, great example. He'd be probably more of a type of guy to go a little bit in from the rings, and he pulls more like this. Now, I think his arms are a little bit longer than mine, but he's also somebody who's not incredibly built for deadlift, but also has a great deadlift, if you see what I'm saying. So it's all about finding like what feels most natural for you. I've gone through trials and tribulations of deadlift since I was freaking 14. I've tried every single stance. And that's also something else that's important to do. You try every single stance so you figure out which one works the best for you. Me personally, I do like the way that this feels, this close stance, but I've just never had the same power off the floor, being able to lock out the same way as I would with my shins at the rings, right? So once we get that footwork set, any of those three, you're wider, you're narrower, or you're even, middle. Uh, the next thing to do is where your toes facing. And if you look, a lot of deadlifters deadlift with their toes facing forward, and they're so they can get a ton of slack out of the bar. Person I'm thinking of for this one, Slayer, something like that. I don't know. Sawyer Clatt, I think that's his name. I'm not sure. I probably got it all wrong, but he deadlifts like sideways. That's how I know him. He's one of those guys who really has his feet facing forward, just like this, and he's like almost standing on train tracks while he's deadlifting. And for him, that just feels more optimal for him. For me, I'd say I like my foot at about like a 45-degree angle. That's just so I could get about even pressure pushing out, kind of keep my knees out and wedge into the bar as I'm doing the lift. Some people want their toes facing directly out. Like I got a friend named Shane. It looks like his feet are literally almost directly like this. They still might be like turned a little bit, but I could definitely tell he pushes them out more. And that's just the way that he finds power to pull from. So now that we got basically the whole lower half set up, we set up, you could be close. There's so many variations that we're up to now. I don't even know. Somebody do the math. That'd be a lot of variations we're up to already. But once you find that stance, you're at the bottom, then it's time to figure out, okay, when do I grip the bar? When do I get my brace? And am I putting my hips into the bar? Am I just standing up with it? Or am I like slowly putting my hips in? There's so many more things to go over. So stick with me. I promise this won't take too much of your time. But so for someone like me, I decided to get my brace at the top. I found I was able to get my brace at the top so I could keep a bigger belly, push into the belt harder. I know a lot of people that have to go down, feel the bar, and then once they're about here, they go, and that's when they take the brace. For me personally, I like when I'm right here, right before I'm about to pull. I'll do something like this to maybe, I don't know if this opens my diaphragm, exactly what this does, but it just kind of loosens me up real quick. I'll take the big breath, and then I'll go down, reach the bar. I set up a hook grip. That's like a whole different video, but you either go mixed grip, either way, or hook grip. I'm a hook grip. I would not recommend double overhand. I don't think people could pull that much that way. But so, take my big breath, go down, set up the hook grip, and then for a lot of people, when they set this hook grip, they're just going to pull and stand up, right? So they're just going to set it and pull, stand up. Now you see a lot of more advanced lifters even do that too. But you see a lot more advanced lifters though doing something more that looks like the swing of their hips, which is called the wedge. And when you're wedging your hips into the bar, it's taking some tension out of your legs and then creating a ton of force to yank that bar off the ground with all the power possible. And for me, I've tended to do that pretty fast throughout the years, but recently I figured if I slow it down just a little bit, I could get into a better position. I'm not kicking the bar with my shins. That's like a really common one. Somebody kicks the bar with their shins just like this. You'll see their arms drift out before the bar comes up. Super common right there. So I figured I'd do medium speed wedge into the bar. And that's just me. You know, you could start, you could just stand up with it. You could do fast wedge, you could do slow wedge. But for me, I've done medium. I think that's the best for me. And now all that's left to do is from when you wedge to pull is to just stand up with the bar. Now, there's more that goes into it. When you start pulling, when do you lock your knees? And that's, a lot of people say you lock your knees at the same time as you lock like this. But as somebody with shorter arms, I realize for me, that's just not possible almost. You see what I'm saying? Because my arms are shorter. So when I'm pulling the bar right here, if I wanted to lock both these at the same time, it's just not like possible because I'd have to have my knees still bent this much at this point to lock these at the same time. So I found for someone with shorter arms, you may need to lock your knees and then kick your butt through. And for me, a good cue that helped me do that, squeezing my traps, twisting my elbows in, and squeezing my lats down, giving me a big chest. So tight triceps, squeeze lats, and I grab the bar. This will help me when I pop my knees backwards like this to finish through strong. I've always had problems at lockout. Short arm curse is what it is. But for me, taking a tight back and tight triceps, kicking your knees back, and then locking it is probably the most probably the most optimal for somebody like me. For if you have longer arms though, you should try to lock your knees and back at the same time because that will make your lockout the smoothest, stuff like that. So now that we got that, I think the only thing left to do is just deadlift. And now a few cues that I give people when they're going into a deadlift: never waste all your energy before you pull. The pull is the only lift where it literally goes from 0 to 100, right? See, with your arms, when you grab the bar, you do grab a little slack. That's one thing I forgot. You want to, if you're going to do this wedge, you're going to pull up on the bar. You're just going to take this part. If you hear that, you're going to take that out of the bar, and then you're going to pull. So you're pulling a little slack, and when you're pulling that slack, you're not pulling with your arms like this. You're pulling with your body, right? You're pulling with your hips. You're pulling with your back. You're using, or not your low back, but like, you see what I'm saying? But you're using other things to pull a weight out than your arms. You keep your arms straight all the time. But it's still going from 0 to 100. It's the only lift where it's like that. You don't get to feel the bar at all. So on like a bench, you get to take it out before you start your press. On a squat, you get to walk it out before you start your squat. On deadlift, you can feel the slack, but slack on 700 pounds probably isn't going to feel that much different from slack on 800 pounds. You know what I'm saying? You know, once you start pulling, it might, but just from the get-go, not exactly. So it's really one of the only lifts where you go from 0 to 100. So I recommend keep it inside of you. I'm calm, I'm calm, I'm calm. I'm walking up to the bar. You're checking everything. Always start with your lower when you're deadlifting. I'd say that. Worry about your feet, your legs, your position, everything. I set this up. Okay, I'm perfect. Now I can worry about my upper, my bracing, everything else. So, yeah, and then once you do that, you grab the bar, you do all the small cues, but I'd say start from the bottom, work up. So the only thing that's left now, we just do a quick pull. So boom, I'm right here. I'm gonna open my diaphragm. I don't even think that's what it's doing, but for me, it feels like it helps. But so, yeah, I'm right here. Boom. Simple. You know what I'm saying? Now, for some people, for some of you guys, that might look more like this. For some of you guys, it might look like this. It is all up to you and playing with all those different cues, techniques, everything I just showed you to finding that your best position. Now, this is definitely a different video than most people covering the sumo deadlift. I just find this what's worked for me. If it doesn't work for you, don't listen to the advice, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like I covered a lot of areas here that worked for a lot of people. So let me know what you guys want to see next. Go ahead, like, comment, subscribe. And that's it for me today.